On.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the February 2nd meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of this March 12th, 2021 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20 until April 1, 2022. This meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Conference ID 707-117-688 #, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. And so I will start off by calling the roll, if I may. Norma Avalar.
Present.
Stephen Daniel. Stephen Daniel.
I'm out of practice. I have my mute button on. I'm here.
Okay.
Just barely, apparently.
Tommy Doan.
Here.
Barbara Madison.
Here.
Joanne Sprague.
Here.
John Whalen.
Here.
Andrew Young.
Here.
And the chair is present, and so we have a quorum. Thank you. The agenda for today is, there are no minutes. We will have a budget presentation on the capital program as outlined in our budget books and the debt service, and then talk about our meeting schedule. Tomorrow, February 3rd, we will be hearing from the police department. On February 9th, we will hear from the Natural Resources and Community Development. On the 16th, Fire, but we will discuss that at the end to see if there are any other departments and issues that we want to hear from. And so with that, I will turn the meeting over to our Finance Director, Alex Salela. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Yes, today we're just going over the capital budget, and with that we decided that we would talk about debt service as well, even though at this time we're not looking at any debt exclusions on the town meeting warrant, so we can sort of talk about some of those items that we've removed from the capital budget that might be presented as standalone articles. I wanted to point out, and I think I sent out to everyone, that the capital budget has changed since it was first presented to the select board back on January 18th, in that we have included now a vehicle replacement for the community development department. So that's an additional $30,000, bringing the capital budget up to $2,391,100 being recommended for the standalone capital article. This also might change. If you had watched the select board's meeting last night, the update after the storm, the blizzard that hit over the weekend, the nor'easter, we had some generators fail at the DPW and at the fire department. Due to the failure of those generators, we might be looking at having those repaired sooner rather than later, which means this fiscal year. There is just over $100,000 in the generator budget at this time. However, that was for a generator at the community center. That's what we had planned that money for. If we use it for generators, and it's fairly broad as to what we can use that generator money for. So it doesn't have to be for a community center generator at this time, but we can use that money to get the generators up and running. But then we would like to refund, fund that community center generator with $100,000 next year. I'm going to share my screen right now, if that's okay, because I'll pull up the capital budget so you can all follow along. Is that,
Yeah.
that work?
Alex, I want to ask a question about that.
Oh, sure.
The failures of the generators. How old are the generators that failed? And when you mean failed, are they totally out of commission and need to be replaced rather than repaired? Personally, a friend of mine had two friends had similar situations where generators failed, and they were fairly new. So I'm wondering what's going on.
Yeah, it's my understanding that they're the ones at the DPW, and we just received a bill of $3,600 for those repairs. They don't have the capacity to run more than 12 hours at a time. And so that was the issue. Those probably are quite old. Those were probably installed when the DPW was installed. The fire department, that was another issue because those are fairly new, being installed when the fire station was installed. So that's fairly recent. So we'll look into that more. But again, the recommendation, at least, the initial recommendation, I'm sure we'll be talking about this over the next few weeks, is to replace the generators at the DPW and then to look at all our other generators to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Madam Chairman,
Norma, go ahead.
I have a question for Alex. Are the generators failing because of age, or are they the wrong size for what they're being asked to do?
I'm not entirely sure. As I said, I think that the ones at the DPW could be a combination of age and the ability to run more than 12 hours straight. That's what I heard at the select board's meeting last night. But again, I'll have to touch base with the emergency management team and see what the recommendation is. That was the recommendation from the company that came out and serviced the generators.
One more comment, if I may. I wonder if we are putting good money after bad, if we are repairing something that really should be replaced,
right?
Perhaps something of a better size for what they're being asked to do.
Yeah, the repair that we made was to get them up and running because they had to get up and running in order to be able to, address the issues associated with the blizzard and the nor'easter. So, we've kind of had to get those up and running, but we will evaluate that moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so I was going
comments or questions. All right, Alex.
All right, I was going to share my screen just so we can all follow along with the capital projects.
Now, those are on for page, I'll tell you, they're in the capital section, X1.
Right, it's in the back of your book. And I'm going to zoom in here so everybody can see it because we want to make sure that it's, oh, that's maybe a little too big.
Norma, do you have it on the page X1? Norma?
In the back of a book. Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so again, as I said, and I'll highlight this right here. So right now we're looking at $2,391,100 for the capital budget. That is funded through a majority of free cash, some from the Waterways Improvement Fund, the Sale of Cemetery Lots Fund, and the PEG Access Fund, those cable funds. Moving down, again, nothing has changed, but I want to talk about some of the items that you might be seeing soon. So here we had built in.
It's cold, getting cold walking home. Walked right through.
Oh, so here we have a generator request.
Somebody please mute yourself if you're talking to somebody. Thanks. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What
So,
page are we on? What page are we on?
This would be page, hold on a second, let me get there. X2, I believe.
Oh, I see. It's X3, Emergency Management Generator for
X3,
Community
yes.
Center.
Correct,
Yeah.
X3.
Yeah.
So here I've highlighted where we had built in $25,000 for the generator, which is sort of an annual appropriation, but we might be looking to increase that to $100,000, as I said, to kind of replace this one that we had for the community center, which was funded last year. Which I don't know why that didn't happen.
We didn't do it last year. Is that what you're saying?
We did. We funded it in FY 2022.
For 25,000?
No, for 100,000.
Oh,
The request is for 25,000 for FY 2023, but we're looking at probably increasing that as we move forward. So probably when you have the presentation from the fire department, that request will be coming forward.
wait, Alex, I don't understand something. You said we had appropriated $100,000 last year. We did
That's
not
right.
spend it?
It hasn't been expended yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So it's still available to address any of the needs that we have right now, which are pressing needs. And then we can replenish that $100,000 through an appropriation. So adding an additional $75,000 to the capital budget. But again, when Chief DiPasquale and Deputy Chief Toronto come in to speak to you, I'm sure they'll be presenting that in more detail.
Okay.
Here is the vehicle replacement for community development. It had been requested for some reason. The sheet did not get printed out, so it was left off the initial request back in January. I did provide you with the detailed request, and this is to replace the Nissan Leaf, which is currently a lease. So either we can purchase the vehicle outright or replace it moving forward. And other than that, the capital budget. Oh,
Madam
You have a
Chairman,
question? We have a question?
I have a statement.
Go ahead.
I may lose power here. I got 4 Eversource trucks out in front of my house, so
Ah,
I may lose power.
Okay.
Very good.
Just want you to know that.
Alex, I did have a question, if I could, please.
Yes, go ahead.
There's several vehicles, the Nissan Leaf that's being referenced as a replacement. There's a couple of DPW trucks from 2005 and 6, if I'm not mistaken. Two questions, really. One, are we thinking about exercising the purchase option on the Leaf, given that it's only a couple of years old?
Yes, I have to look to see what the the buyout price would be on that. But yes, we are looking at that.
Okay. And second, do we monetize if we elect, obviously if we return the lease car, it's gone, but do we monetize through auctions or otherwise, things like big 20-year-old DPW trucks that are surplus now and are being replaced?
We can do that, or oftentimes we can trade some of the vehicles in. This is
Okay.
especially useful for the police vehicles that have a lot of miles and hours on them. But we usually get a discount on the it goes towards the new vehicle.
Good. Okay. So there's some monetization strategy. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yep.
John Whalen, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman, Co-Chairman. My question is about the 100,000 that was authorized last year. What was the reason that we didn't get a generator for the community building? The community building is being used as a warming center, and I think it would be very important to have it there. I just can't understand how we voted on it last year. We still have not executed the purchase of that generator. Thank you.
And I think that has to do with timing. We're halfway through the fiscal year right now, so the funds just became available on July 1st. So they were looking at that and getting the generators and the contractors out to install it. I think there's been some delays with some of the supply chain issues. I'm not sure, but they are looking at it and they were moving forward towards it.
Okay, so the intent is to purchase it. It wasn't,
Yes.
yes, okay. John, is that actually where you wanted to know if we were planning to buy it this year?
Yeah. So again, as I said, the funds just became available on July 1st. And so oftentimes, we have to go out to bid, all these issues around it. So again, we're looking at that. Okay, so moving down, again, fairly standard annual items for drain water, stormwater management. This has to do with our MS4 water quality statistic analysis. This was requested for a number of years, and finally we are going to fund it for FY 2023. We're recommending it. Conservation lands management, forest management. A request was for 20,000. We're recommending 10,000. And again, all these items I'm pointing out now. However, when the department heads come in, if you have detailed questions on any of these items, they'd be happy to address those items.
Yeah, I would like to know more about that water quality statistical analysis, what that is and what improvements we will see as a result of that.
Okay, I'll note that for Dr. Bob. Dredging program. You will note that we will have a standalone article for dredging as well as the $100,000 request in the capital program. This is something we've done over the number of years, and the reason why we segregate out 300,000 as a standalone article, which will be funded from free cash, is in case we leave $100,000 in here in case that standalone article should not pass a town meeting. So at least there's something to continue our dredging program. Dredging, as we've stated before, technically doesn't qualify for capital, as it might not have a useful life of 5 years, and we're not sure if we can borrow for dredging. So that's another reason why we try to segregate it out as a standalone article. But again, should that article not pass, we want to have something in the bank to address our dredging needs.
Alex, quick question, if I may, please.
Yes.
Under coastal resources, I think just below where you are, there's two articles or two line items: Jackknife Harbor site improvements, Marconi radio tower, erosion protection, each of which are being stipulated for CPC funds. If those were not to get CPC funds allocated to them, what would be the thinking about those two things, please?
We could either have them as standalone or put them back in the capital plan. I believe that there is, and the CPC will be hearing the Marconi radio tower erosion protection this coming Monday. So they'll be talking about those, and there's actually 2 applications in for Marconi, and we're looking at the best way to move forward. So again, that will be heard on Monday afternoon.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, the question I do have on that Jackknife Harbor Beach, $150,000. The request was for a CPC application. If I recall correctly, when there was an initial CPC application, I think it was last year or the year before, and a couple of us raised this issue that we were doing a study at the time, but that it was going to end up costing Chatham a lot more money. So I guess I would want to know where this $150,000, I guess we have to wait till the CPC application is either approved or not. But, you know, I had some concerns at the time. I know Joe and Papalato also talked about this. You know, are we letting ourselves in for a lot more than we should be? So it is a concern, and I know we need to wait, but we need to look at that more closely, I think.
Okay, and this is a good exercise because I can relate these concerns to the department heads so they can, you know, be prepared to address all of them.
Yeah, and it's an application to the CPC, so we even have to see if they fund it, because if they don't, yeah. Barbara, you had a question.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Alex, do we know how much money is going to be allocated from CPC funding this year? Because I know the selectmen have wanted 80% of it to go to affordable housing, and I just wonder how much is going to be left over for these other projects if that indeed is approved.
Well, currently we have applications in excess of the available funds. So if the 1.2 million goes to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, very few applications and projects would get approved. So there's quite a few applications. I don't know if I have the list right here, but Again, the funding is, I think, in excess of I think it's about $2.9 million.
And,
Goes to
and,
the
and
request.
we did get, Barbara, from if you saw the figures from the trust fund from the state this year, a lot of money, more than we have gotten in the last, I think, 10 years.
Right. We received over $500,000 in the state match.
Wow.
Alex, do I recall there's a positive budget though in the CPC carryover budget?
The CPC has about 980,000 of fund balance, which can be used to fund these. However, the estimated revenues are 1.5, so that's the only amount of available funds for next year.
So it's 900,000 plus 1.5.
Yes.
So that's 2.4 million.
And we have about 2.9 million in requests if 80% of the
If
housing.
the 80% goes
Yes.
through.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Barbara, your hand is still up.
Oops, I'll take it down.
Okay.
Okay. Town Land and Comprehensive Survey. This has been in the queue for a long time, and we finally thought that it was time to fund it because it hasn't been done in a number of years, and that will survey all of our town landings, which might identify other capital projects in the future. You can see here some of the items that are pushed out and the funding sources from the waterfront bond and or from the waterway user fee revolving fund. So we'll be looking at that.
Wait, before you move on from that revolving fund, there's $500,000 in it.
I'm sorry.
The waterways revolving fund has $500,000 in it.
No, the waterways user fee revolving fund has over $1 million in it right now.
Oh, over $1 million.
Yes.
And there are requests for 500,000.
This is a request right now for 100,000.
Oh, of course. What is the 500,000? Oh, wait a minute.
That's out in the out years.
All right. So, all right. Okay, I got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay, and then moving down into continuing natural resources for the Harbor Master's Office. Again, aids to navigation, an annual request. And those are the your buoys out there. Porta potties has been put into the operating budget because it really is an operating expense. One of the increases in the Harbor Master's budget is this $45,000. They'd requested it under capital. However, it is an operating cost to install and remove the seasonal floats. So that is an increase in their operating budget that will be discussed when they come before you. Mitchell River Bridge maintenance and repair. Again, we don't know the amount that is required every year. There's still a hefty balance from the first appropriation. So we're requesting, they'd requested 86,000 and we've cut that in half to recommend that to town meeting. Here is the $500,000 for the Coast Guard float dock at Pullmill Boatyard. If that is to move forward, that has to go through the waterways committees and then is approved by the Harbor Master, the department head, as well as the town manager, and that would come from the Wolf Revolving. And again, there's over $1 million in there, which can support that. The hurricane tide gate analysis, this has been a request from the Harbor Master's Department for as long as I can remember, and it's never been funded. However, we've recommended it for funding for FY 2023.
And where is the location of that?
That's down on Morris Island.
Okay, right. Okay. And this is just an analysis. It isn't any.
Yes, and what's the best way to move forward? Do we replace it? Do we not replace it? You know, is there a better way to do it? It's an old wooden tide gate that you have to manually put the boards in and then go back and remove them so the water does drain back out. So again, we felt that this was a good time to have that study done, especially with you know, the focus on coastal resiliency, et cetera. Fish Pier parking kiosks, that is a greater discussion for parking all over town. So I think the board has requested an agenda item on that moving forward. Cemetery department.
So
Cleanup.
Alex, if I, couple
Yes.
of quick questions. I'm
Oh, sorry. Yes, go
trying to
ahead.
dodge my ringing phone here. I apologize. So 2 questions, please. Do we know, just on historically, what the run rate has been annually for Mitchell River Bridge maintenance? I mean, we're estimating 80, somewhere between 86 and 43, but what does the data tell us over the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, it just started a couple of years ago with the replacement of the bridge.
Yep.
And I'm looking right now to see what's been expended through January 31st. And through January 31st, there has been, only $661 so far has been expended this year, although there is a purchase order out there for another $6,000.
Okay. Could we possibly get detail of what that number is historically over the last 3 to 4 years or 2 to 3 years the bridge has been open?
Yep.
Not now, but if that's something we could put on the list, please. And then just above that, you made reference to the seasonal float installation and removal. On page
Correct.
28 of the town manager's budget presentation, there's a budget item for just under $120,000 for what sounds like the same thing, contract services for float install, removal, et cetera, et cetera. Seasonal rates, vehicle and equipment maintenance costs.
Right.
Are these, is the 45
That's-
part of the 119?
Yes.
Okay. And the balance of the 118, that is vehicle and equipment maintenance costs, et cetera.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we've been doing this seasonal float removal. The Harbor Masters Department has been doing this. We've had discussions a number of years running, it seems to me, haven't we, Stephen, about whether it can be done in-house or it has to be.
Yeah, I think the issue came up probably, what, Alex, 3 years ago? I think more than 2.
Yep.
And I think the committee took a somewhat dim view on the prospect of letting this out to a third-party contractor.
Right.
And I think the committee took a somewhat dim view.
Why has that changed?
The prospect of.
Yeah. Again, this was requested because it takes quite a bit of time for the Harbor Master's office and their personnel to do this, even with their seasonal personnel. The idea was if we have it contracted out, it gets done all at once rather than sort of piecemealing when they can fit their time in to do it. But again, that's they can explain that in more detail when they appear before the committee.
I understand the reasoning. I would like to know the difference, but really, what is the difference in cost? Is it not costing us a lot more money to contract it out rather than giving it, having seasonal employees do it? What's the difference in cost? Have you figured that?
I think it is the $45,000 because this is an additional cost. However, they would have to explain, and I don't know if I have the detail with me right now, explain, what projects they're not able to accomplish if they have to install and remove the floats every year.
Okay.
So maybe, Florence, that's something we defer to when Bob comes before us.
Yeah,
or
right,
Stuart,
right.
or-
Yeah, we definitely need to do that. Because as you know, once you start doing this, the costs go up.
Okay. And then, all right, so moving down to the cemetery department, clean and repair headstones. We've had a $10,000 request to address some of the headstone repairs and cleaning of the headstones in the various cemeteries.
This is not capital, but it occurs to me as we're looking at this, you mentioned cemetery. Under whose department is the cemetery now? And where is it, Alex? It's moved.
Yeah, cemetery has always been under the DPW department.
Right.
However, Dan Tobin, who just retired, was the liaison to the cemetery commission.
Right.
And so now that will move over to probably to Tom Temple and or Gary Glazier.
Okay. So I think when Tom comes in, he might want to talk about what changes they see, because I know they were going to add some personnel in
Yes.
order to make that work more effectively. It's, been kind of pencil and paper aspects of the cemetery commission.
Yeah, I think the idea is to, and the town manager has put in an administrative order
Right.
to look at.
Somebody needs to talk to that for us.
Yeah, and we will address that, and that is to move some of the cemetery maintenance in-house, the mowing, et cetera, to move that in-house, and that's part of that administrative order, and we'll be talking to you that very shortly, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, continuing on with DPW. So the highway department, again, annual items, you can see here, road resurfacing, $200,000, emergency road repair, $10,000, catch basins, $40,000, road maintenance projects, $20,000, sidewalk construction, $100,000. The reason why we cut that down from $200,000 is there's a large balance remaining from leftover sidewalk construction articles. So we felt comfortable that $100,000 would be sufficient for FY 2023. And bike trail maintenance, 10,000, and signs, 5,000.
Alex, just very quickly, do you have a sense of how large what constitutes a large balance remaining in the sidewalk budget?
I'm looking at that right now, and we have about $263,000 remaining. However, there is a purchase order out there for $75,000, which leaves a balance of about just under $200,000.
Yeah, so that's a pretty healthy balance. Thank you.
That's a lot of sidewalks. I hope they get it done.
Okay, and then we have a couple of articles here that will be segregated out as a maybe segregated out as a separate article. Emergency drainage installation repairs for $500,000 and replace the sand salt storage shed. Again, we're still looking at those, whether it's a separate article or can be funded through other sources.
What is the emergency drainage installation repair? Is just an account that you keep for emergencies, or are there particularly drainage issues that you need to be addressed right now?
That was the request from the department head, and it is sort of to have an account on hand to address these emergency drainage issues.
Have we ever had it before?
No, this is new.
Oh, this is new. Okay. And I think when he comes to talk, he might want to let us know why he thinks it's necessary to have that much money in an account for an emergency.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Joanne.
Alex, as soon as we can, I would really appreciate it if we had a list of the balance of these separate articles so that we can view those in relation to the articles that are within the budget.
Yes,
so we can actually see how much room we have as far as our debt ceiling and what we can afford to spend in order for us to be able to prioritize them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Need that.
Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And again,
go
sorry,
ahead, Alex.
No, I'll wait.
Okay, Barbara, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alex, if not as a separate article, what would the possible other source of cash be for the sand and salt storage shed?
If there was Chapter 90 funds available, that could be a use, so from Chapter 90, but I believe that we've utilized most of those funds, so this might be funded partially through Chapter 90, and I don't know if there's any grants available for an item of this type.
Okay, thanks.
Alex, you were going to comment about the separate articles.
Oh, yeah, again, the select board hasn't voted on these yet, so again, we're not sure if these will even move forward, but we have noted them as a separate article for consideration.
Do you have any idea when the select board's going to take these up?
Not this coming week. I have to see when Tom Temple can get before the select board to talk about these articles. So we're still planning all those.
Okay. Yeah, it would be good for us to I hope to be able to see them before we have to submit our first report, because we don't always agree with the listing separate articles.
Okay, so now moving down to the sewer department. Again, original sewer system repairs, we just have a small amount of 30,000, and again, that's based on the current balance that's remaining in that account. The ultraviolet disinfection upgrade, that is the second required over at the treatment plant, so $225,000. Now we have a couple of items listed here that say ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. We're still looking at the ways the final guidelines came out from Treasury, and wastewater is an acceptable use of those funds. So we'll be looking to have the rehab of the influent building at Lakeside, as well as the septic building at Lakeside, funded through ARPA. The replacement of the belt filter press, again, that could be funded possibly through existing authorizations and or a separate article, and that might be eligible for the state revolving fund, which makes it also eligible for the Cape Cod Islands Water Protection Fund.
When will we know about those funds from the protection fund?
They've already committed money for pre-existing debt and debt moving forward. So we have those, but again, we'll have to look at any new articles as well.
Joanne, you
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Alex, can you explain what the influent rehab of influent building? What is the purpose of the influent building?
I think that is where the septic is collected, and I'm just looking for my detail on this right now.
No, right.
Yeah, and it's due for replacement. As I recall, this has been on the 5-year capital plan for a while.
Okay.
And again, we could have Tom Temple discuss this in detail when he appears before you.
That's fine. Thank you.
But I'll mark that as an item for discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, and then just so you know, out here, we're looking at FY 2024. We have some large items for sewer, specifically the Queen Anne pump station upgrade and the lining of the 8-inch AC force main pipe. But again, that's out in FY 2024.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Could
Connie.
we go back to the replacement of the belt
Sure.
filter press?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a replacement, and they requested almost $500,000, $5 million to do it.
Yes, and it's actually the replacement of 2 belt filter presses. One has completely failed, and the other one I think is 20 years old. So I think they're looking to replace the one that has failed, and then to have a second one should the one that's currently being used fails. But again, we will have them discuss that as well.
Yeah, they came before us last year, Tommy, and also made the same request, but then didn't go ahead with it, if my memory serves me.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to buildings and grounds and facilities. We have an annual request of $200,000 for property management and building maintenance, and this is for all the buildings, all the town-owned buildings. Public restroom repairs, we're looking at improving the public restrooms. Again, we have money that has built up over years, so we can start addressing that. The Eldridge Garage property site, we're still waiting for information on that. That would be a separate article, and we don't have an amount even programmed in there at this time. So more to come on that.
I want to go back one question to the property management.
Mm-hmm.
we have it down for 200,000. Building maintenance, I understand, but what's property management? Don't we manage our own property?
We do, and this is for some of the items such as, the HVAC items that we might have that we need to get people in to fix and address HVAC issues, et cetera.
Okay, it's just a nomenclature that was troubling me.
Yeah.
Okay, Stephen, you have a question?
Thank you. I think John's hand was up before mine.
Oh, I don't
John.
see John's hand. Okay, John.
My hand was not up by mistake.
Okay, I didn't see.
Alex, with respect to the public restroom repairs for $30,000, is there some reason why that's just not in the operating budget? Why that's a capital expense?
Because it would be capital
Repairs?
improvements to the, this is putting in touchless faucets,
Okay.
low flush toilets, et cetera.
Okay, so capital improvement rather than public restroom repair.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then moving on, recreation and beaches, there's no applications this year. And then down to the airport. And again, there's, this would be a separate article for if we have any of the aviation easement acquisitions. So again, and just so the Finance Committee and the public note, we always separate out any of the airport capital as a separate article, just as a routine practice.
You know what I found very helpful, and I don't know whether while we're talking about the airport, when you showed how you handle the expenditures, the question came up about how the airport revolving fund expenditures handled, and you showed exactly what you did and what the role of the town was to monitor those and audit those. And I thought that was very helpful. I don't know whether the committee would have any interest. I know questions have come up in the past by this committee about what oversight we have of the funds of the airport. And I thought that was quite helpful. I don't know if there was any other interest.
No, Florence, I found Alex's remarks in that regard quite helpful. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the finances of the airport look like. So I would be certainly supportive of pegging a day in the future where we could slot that in for 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Would that be something you'd like to see tomorrow, since we have a request from the airport to increase the annual limit in their airport revolving fund?
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it's up
Yeah,
to Florence, but if you've got the time to pull it together, that'd be great.
I'll be sending that the agenda pack out shortly after this meeting, so you'll all have a
You had all those figures and they were very good. I think they might make people feel better about how this is all done, and also how federal grants are audited. We don't audit those; the federal government audits those. So, okay,
we can do that. Okay. All right, moving on, transfer station recycling improvements, request was for 1.4 million. We've pushed that out to next year. And then into equipment, and the equipment down here is for all departments. So you can see here where some of the requests, example, for the cruiser replacement had requested $94,000. With the price of vehicles, we thought it was prudent to increase that to, $50,000 per vehicle, especially for the cruisers, because there's a lot of equipment that has to be installed in those as well. So recommending $100,000 there, and the police chief will be before you tomorrow to talk about some of these items if you have any specific questions. The animal control vehicle is also being recommended. That's a 2012 vehicle, so probably starting to spend a lot of money on repairs and prudent to replace it at this time.
Going down that list, we will, I assume, be hearing a lot more about this surface capable response boat.
Okay, I'm moving it down. Yes, we're going to segregate that as a separate article. And again, that is due to the Coast Guard's not having a surf boat. So the harbor master's office is looking to have their own surf boat. So that would be a topic of discussion, especially as a standalone article.
But the select board hasn't discussed this or approved this yet.
No, they haven't, but I believe that they are looking forward to discussing this.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
It is. Then just, you can see here for the cemetery, again, trucks, mowing trailer, utility trailer, small mowers and power tools, and that is the cost of bringing that service in-house. And then just some small tractors and trailers, a large item for the six-wheeler trucks that Tom Temple will discuss, $248,000. We did fund one for FY 2022, and this would be one for FY 2023. And these are all quite old, as you can see from 2003, 2005, 2007. And that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Well, I have a question on equipment for, it wasn't approved. There was a request from the, some sort of a Stetco trailer, but it wasn't approved. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
That's at the transfer station.
Stephen, you have a hand up.
I do, Alex, just very quickly, we are kind of insourcing cemetery maintenance to, at the same time, we're talking about outsourcing kind of float and pier deployment. Is there a standard paradigm by which we assess the costs and benefits of insourcing versus outsourcing?
Good question.
Yeah, I think we're insourcing, or we're looking to insource. Hold on just a minute. Let me stop sharing my screen.
You're unshared.
I'm unshared. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep,
yeah, we're insourcing the cemetery due to we have 2 vacancies in the custodial department. So of the 3 positions there, there's only 1 currently employed. So with the transferring those 3 positions from facilities over to cemetery or grounds would help us, again, it's, I think an increase of 1 person or 1 FTE because the 1 facilities or the 1 custodian would move over to facilities, and then we'd have 3 laborers under Parks and Grounds specifically to address some of the cemetery issues. So it's a net increase of 1.
Yep.
We are cutting down the contracted services in the cemetery budget. I'm not fully out because we might need to have some of that money to start the beginning of the season for June, July, and August. And then we can have our in-house people take care of the cemeteries after that. Again, we're just trying to be proactive in case it takes a while to hire people into those positions. But we did cut that. I believe we cut it in half, the cemetery contracted services.
Sorry, I'm dodging my ringing office phone again. Okay, but then I guess just to be clear, though, there's not a standardized approach by which the town assesses what kind of things it wants to run in-house versus what kind of things it wants to contract to third parties for. Is that a fair statement?
We, as I said, we review all of these items as they come up. We, we have the union that we have to negotiate with if we want to outsource anything. So that also is something that, we take into consideration because this way, by moving the vacant facilities positions over to the Parks and Grounds division, they're not losing any employees. So.
Got it. Okay, I think that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah. John, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. With 2 custodian vacancies and other vacancies, have we looked lately to see if our pay scale is competitive, or are we perhaps falling behind some of the other towns and less able to hire people that we need for these vacancies? Thank you.
Yeah, the custodial vacancies, the custodians are as grade 1, so that is a very low grade, and so that's what we're looking at, outsourcing the custodial services moving forward. But doing the cemetery maintenance in-house. Those positions are a grade 3 rather than a grade 1, so we expect that we will be able to fill those.
Alex, I'm sorry. Let's see. John, are you, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Your hand's still up, John. You have another question?
Yes, I don't think that really answers the questions. My question is our pay scale competitive with other towns at this point? It would appear that with the very many vacancies we have, we perhaps have not adjusted our pay scale up with all the inflation that's going on and all the other for employees. It looks like we perhaps are not getting people when we otherwise could have had we had a little higher pay scale.
Yeah, we do look at our pay scales, and the HR benefits coordinator will review that in comparison. We have had some challenges with some of the positions, so when that happens, we'll look to see if we can upgrade a pay scale if we've had problems trying to hire somebody. Again, in the union environment, wages are a mandatory topic of bargaining, so we have to notify the union and bargain with the union. And again, it's hard to say, okay, it's a one-off that we're going to upgrade one and not look at all the pay scales. There is in this budget a 3% cost of living increase based on the agreed upon formula that the unions have accepted. So we do feel that we are competitive, and I think, as we noted when we first presented the budget, our seasonal pay scales, we look at those as in regards to other towns too, so we can remain competitive. Some of the challenges are in the fire department, where you have, COM Fire that has their own taxing authority, and they can, provide different pay scales than towns can, because it's easier for them to raise those rates. But again, a lot of it too is the new workers coming into the workforce right now are looking for items other than pay, such as more time off. So we're looking at being creative.
And also, I have read, Cape Cod Times has some articles, the Globe has articles, that it's not just a Chatham problem in terms of hiring, that many of the towns, are experiencing hiring problems. School districts for next year for teachers, nurses, are having a real difficult time.
Okay.
Any other questions of Alex?
Yes, please. If you have a 3% COLA and a 7% inflation, it really means that many of our employees actually have less income than they had before. I really think that deserves some attention.
Yeah, well, we'll note that, but again, it's a agreed upon formula with the unions. So we have that, and we'll keep our eye on it moving forward.
Anything else, John?
I'm all set. I see Joanne's
Yes,
hand is
Joanne's hand is up now. Joanne?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to add that in the contracts, along with the cost of living adjustment, which is now included in the contracts, there's also the annual step increases that are demanded by the union for the certain pay positions. So it's more than just a 3% increase in their pay scale for the year. Am I right, Alex?
Partially, yes. There's for employees who qualify for step increases, who are still on the moving through the steps on their grade, and that's usually a 2.5% increase between steps. And then if they're not on steps and they've been here, they are qualified for longevity payments. So again, they do get additional compensation in those ways.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Capitol? Any other questions? Okay, with that then. Alex-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I do.
Sure.
To sort of look at this overall, I would like to see at the end the our debt, what we're proposing, and how we will end up if we accept the warrant articles and the capital budget, and how we meet like the mass municipal standards for the percentage of our debt to equalized valuation and percentage of our debt per capita. Will we be able to see that overall before we can make recommendations to the selectmen and to the taxpayers on what we think our priorities should be as far as our debt and capital spending?
Yeah, well, we're moving on to debt now, so I will show you some of that. Again, right now, we don't have any debt exclusions that are being proposed for town meeting. But as we move forward through that in the select board, we always show what the impact is to the taxpayer and where the debt, what our projected debt service is. We can show that we're well below the debt limit. And then the EQV, I can see if I can get that off the Commonwealth's website.
Thank
And
you.
Joanne,
I think that's important.
And Joanne, just to add, you may recall that last year we aggregated kind of everything you just touched on.
Right.
The budget, the in-budget capital spending, the warrant article spending, the exclusions, came up with our own master list. And that's something that I would anticipate, once my head's sort of better back in the game, I would anticipate that we would end up doing that again this year.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
We can anticipate, Joanne, that the select board are going to recommend certain standalone articles, so we certainly need to see that in terms of our total capital expenditures.
Thank you,
Madam Chair. But we don't know what they are at the moment.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Debt.
So we can move on to debt. And in your packet, I gave you just the debt budget, which is in section 9 of the budget book. So right before the capital plan.
Right.
And right now, we're looking at debt service of just over $5 million in principal, $1.5 million in interest. And then we have a placeholder of $150,000 for short-term borrowing. And that is if we have to issue any bond anticipation notes, and also goes to pay for any Clean Water Trust administrative fees that are borrowed through the Clean Water Trust. And again, those are those 0% interest loans for wastewater and 2% loans for water. And let's see if I can find my debt budget here. And I have a chart on debt, but I also did include in the in your packet the current year, fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 27 debt service schedules, which I thought was interesting. I think you've seen this before, but it shows all of our different issues and, for municipal, for wastewater, and then as they drop off, what's, being paid off rather quickly. And at the bottom line, you can see that we have for FY 2022, the current year, $6.4 million. For 2023, it's going up to 6.5. And
Do you have a chart? Do you have a screen?
I will get that. Yep, just bear with me one moment.
Yeah, because mine is on
Yeah, I can pull this up.
computer.
Okay. All right, I'll share my screen again.
That's pretty.
Thank you. Okay. This isn't that pretty. This is
No.
one of those, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Oh, we don't want to go out to 2049, so. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to hide this. You don't need to see this. Okay, so here I'm, hold on just a minute. Okay. So here is the debt service again for the current year. So here's, for FY 2022, 6.4, 6.5 next year, and then declining thereafter. And this goes all the way out, to total principal outstanding right now, 83,946,000, and total of interest, 16.2 million, for a grand total of $99,145,346, and that is out through FY 2049.
And that includes the complete wastewater treatment plan that we had that will sewer the entire town?
No, that is only the current debt that has been issued.
Okay.
So, but we do show when we are looking at projecting debt, I do a chart on debt projections, and I do include all of the wastewater planned out for sewering the entire town.
Joanne, your hand.
Yes, Madam Chair. Alex, I'm looking at the exempt and non-exempt. Can you explain those two definitions a little bit for me?
Yes.
Down under. Yeah.
Yep. You can see they're exempt, and I'll highlight this so anyone can see it. So exempt debt here is that debt that has been excluded from Proposition 2.5. So it's a debt exclusion.
Okay.
And per our financial policies, we exclude all debt service. And then our non-exempt, which is smaller, as you can see, currently $305,750 of outstanding debt. Some items have to be, will not qualify for a debt exclusion, such as land acquisition for the land bank. But that is, again, in the last year of debt service on that right now.
Okay, one more question. Thank you, Alex. What does capital MWPAT mean again?
That's the Mass Water Pollution Abatement Trust, or also the Clean Water Trust. Those are the 0% loans. And I can unhighlight this here. So if we look at FY 2023, you can see there's no interest for these loans.
Mm-hmm. Now, does that the wastewater the wastewater treatment, does any of the debt that you have listed, will any of that change as a result of getting money from the Clean Water Trust? Because we will be getting quite a bit of money from that trust. And can't that be used for previously acquired debt?
Yes, and we have a list of that, so we will be updating the debt schedules once we get the final list of how much we'll receive each year for the debt service. And
so that amount will come down.
It will come down. And also we're looking at refunding some of our debt that was issued back in 2012. So as we look to see what's eligible for refunding, we're trying to do that before March 15th. When we expect interest rates to go up. So we're hoping that that will save us about $1 million over the life of the loan without extending the maturity dates at all.
Joanne, you had your hand up.
No, thank you. I just want to say to Alex, this is really good, and the explanations help us to understand the enormity of the debt and everything behind it. So thank you very much for this. Like it.
You're welcome. And again, we separate out. You can see that sewer is probably our largest. Makes up the bulk of our debt right now. We do have quite a bit for municipal, but again, that was for the fish pier and fire station, and that is dropping off rather quickly as we move forward. And the town annexes, of course, those are a large dollar amount.
Will we be getting any funds? The county has funds from, what is it, ARPA? Are we going to get any of that? And when will we know?
And we're not sure. The Select Board voted last night to send a letter to the county regarding the ARPA funds. And the allocation of those funds, whether the county allocates them per population, which we have not requested. We're requesting a different funding formula for Chatham, since we have needs just as great as some of the larger populated towns on the Cape.
Barbara, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Alex, I don't pretend to understand how you do this, but it seems to me that we talked last year about refunding some of the debt also. Were we able to accomplish that? And do you know what rate we went from and to?
No, we didn't do a refunding last year. We did a refunding several years ago, which saved us, I believe, $1.4 million over the life of the loans. So this year, our financial advisors have said, this is a good time to look at refunding as long as we do it before March 15th. So we'll be busy getting that information together and going out to bid on those items.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Alex, anything else on the debt?
I think Stephen has his hand up.
Oh, Steve. Oh, okay. No, I didn't see it. Stephen,
Can't hear you.
you're muted.
Nope.
Stephen, do you hear us?
Oh,
Is
I
he
think
muted?
he's having.
He's
He's
working
out?
on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go on. So that's where we are on debt at this time.
Do you anticipate any items that might be recommended by the select board that will increase our debt?
It depends on if the Eldridge Garage property, what's
And-
being done with that. I'm not sure.
The community center.
And or the community or senior center, what's being done with that. I think we're looking at that. So that might be debt exclusions. Most of the items we're looking at funding through available funds at this time.
Okay. We don't know, we have no idea whether the select board is planning any recommendations for this town meeting relative. I haven't heard anything and I've been watching, but on the senior center.
Yeah, I think that they're looking at a feasibility study based on some of the comments that were received.
Oh,
And utilizing, programs at the community center as well as the current Council on Aging building right now, and looking how, best if we could repurpose that. So again, I don't expect any large request this year.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Joanne?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any hearing on the subject of the Monomoy Theater? Purchase of the Monomoy property for a theater as a capital expense?
It's that is a petition article that a petition was submitted. So again, we'd have to look at that and what it would go. But again, that will be on the warrant since it was a petition article.
So we will have a chance to, Joanne, to discuss it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Joanne? Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. Hearing none. Alex? Oh, no, that's okay, good.
Okay.
Is there
So
anything else on the debt, Alex?
I'm sorry.
Anything else on debt?
No, again, this was the general fund debt. The water department has its own debt that we will present when you see the water department budget. Again, paid through by water rates and no impact on the tax rate. We're not looking at issuing any water debt this year, and we're also not looking at increasing any water rates.
Actually, Madam Chair, can I ask one last question?
Sure.
Alex, what do you envision a feasibility study for the Council on Aging to be? I mean, who's going to do it, and what do you suspect it's going to cost?
I'm not sure what it will cost. I think there are still, I'm not sure. I think Terry Whalen is getting the estimates on that right now. So when he comes before you, and again, this will be a standalone article if necessary. So you'd get a chance to weigh in on that.
Do you think there's anything that we've already done and paid for that might be able to be utilized?
We have looked at that. So any of the information we had, we did send over to the current architect and owner's project manager for their review.
Thanks. Maybe you could let them know that we'll be asking that when they come before us.
Yep.
And the other issue, I guess, and I don't know where it is the Kroll Road intersection.
Oh, yeah.
The Kroll Road intersection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be funded, I believe, through Mass DOT. But I think we had some funds in there for, and I think that was approved, was that approved last year?
But we haven't, the board hasn't officially decided to go on ahead with that, have they?
Right. So that's why that's not
Okay.
here.
All right. So it's nothing imminent.
And Madam Vice Chair, to your point, it seems to me that this committee voted rather substantially against proceeding with that, regardless of who was paying for it, because
Correct.
of the disruption to the town and the doubt that it really was going to make it any better than it already is.
Right. We did last year. We made clear that we didn't think it was a project that needed to go forward. So I don't know, Barbara, what's happened. I don't know that the select board has made any decision on it. Do you have any idea, Alex?
I don't think so. I'm going to look at my future agendas and see if
I didn't notice anything, and I haven't.
that's coming
Now,
up anytime soon.
The other thing, of course, and I don't know, do we want to do this initially before the end, in issuing our first report, is the Monomoy school budget and the issue of the Chatham Elementary School. That was Scott Carpenter reported to the select board yesterday.
Yes.
I turned off before the final vote, so I don't know what happened, but it was a substantial increase, was it not, Alex?
It's about a $900,000 increase. There was no vote last night due to Jeff Dykins not being present, so they wanted a full board present, especially since Jeff has been so involved with the Monomoy Regional School District, since its inception.
Right.
So there'll be more to come on that. Also, we did get the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group did vote their recommended rates for next year. So we expect the Monomoy Regional School budget to decrease slightly based on those rates, because they had a placeholder, I believe, of 6% in, and the recommended rates were 3% for next year.
Oh,
and
is that for us too? Is that us too?
That's also for the town. So I will be amending that budget when we make the presentation to the board. And I'm looking at those probably coming in sometime later in February or early in March for the general government and employee benefits budget. And as noted, we'll try to get all the benefits for each department as this committee has requested in the past.
Joanne?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I keep talking about this, but I'm still not quite clear of how we can get our arms around the benefits, the average benefit for the average employee. And when we talk about a new employee, it seems like we should have the information of the new salary plus what benefits, the average of what benefits would apply, and so that we know the whole cost of bringing on a new employee. And I'm suspecting that now the benefits are still lumped in together under benefits and not in each department. I find that, to me, confusing and somewhat misleading. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alex, you want to respond?
Yeah, we've centralized the benefits in one department. Again, we want to make sure that we have enough money to fund the benefits, and the individual department heads don't approve those benefits. That's something that is a responsibility of the town to pay those bills. But as I said, we do try to identify what the benefit costs are per department when we present to you, provided I have the time to gather all that information together.
Alex, are we going to, earlier on, you said something about an administrative reorganization. Are we going to see all of those? I wanted to see all the personnel changes in one spot so we could figure out what was going on.
Yes, the town manager and I have discussed giving you a rundown of the proposed changes as a separate standalone item.
Yeah, okay. So we'll get that. Joanne, you still have your hand up? I'm sorry, you had another question? Joanne?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm all
So-
set.
All right, so tomorrow we're going to have police and what else? You said.
Actually, proposed staffing changes.
Oh, okay. Very good.
As I'm looking at the agenda right now. So we'll also, the airport revolving fund, as I said, had requested an increase to their annual limit. So we'll be presenting that. And that's in advance of the select board hearing that on February 8th, because if there is going to be an increase, it has to go before both boards. And
Right
then
now, the maximum is 50,000, correct?
75,000.
Oh, 75. We went up. Yeah.
And then the police department will be presenting their budget, and then we're looking at proposed staffing changes.
Okay, good. So tomorrow. Okay, is that good for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, then on February 9th, you have natural resources and community development, and on the 16th, the fire department.
Where's the water, DPW?
I'm trying to schedule Tom Temple in.
That's a big
Yeah.
part of the budget.
I'll see if I can get him in for the 16th as well.
Okay.
So, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
one question for Alex. So Alex, the organizational charts in our budget books, those are going to be, there's going to be a proposal to alter some of the positions as stated within those charts?
No, those charts include the contemplated changes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Any
So
other
you can
questions?
tell us what they used to be.
Right. We'll see them tomorrow. Any other questions? Any other comments before we go? All right, Alex, thank you very much, as always.
Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions or comments, you can always send them to Alex. John, you have a question or comment?
My comment would be that I want to compliment Alex with her comprehension and explanation of all of these detailed items. I don't think we have any chance to understand them without what you've been doing, Alex. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, Alex, and I have to comment.
Hear, hear.
I was shocked that in the town of Wellfleet, they lost $750,000. They didn't know. Yes, they have a warrant article, John, requesting $750,000 to make up for money. They had an audit finally done because they didn't know what happened to the $750,000. Alex, thank you for never losing $750,000 for.
I don't want to
My
lose
question
$10.
is, how did that happen? How could that happen? You give us every figure in every department, from rubber bands on up. I was like, how did this happen?
We will not expand on how that could happen, Florence.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're the banker, Anyway, thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Second John's comment.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, have a good evening, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'll move we adjourn.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Second.
you, Andy. I have to do a roll call on that
Yeah.
one, don't I?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, Norma? Lost her. Stephen? Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes, ma'am.
Joanne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Thank you, Andy, for reminding me. And the chair says yes, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Florence.
Adjourned.
Thank you.
Good to have you back, Mr. Chair.